This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson. So, where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world of politics, happenings in general news, happenings in news and technology, everything that affects us, everything we hear about on a daily or weekly basis via the various media that we are surrounded by and influenced by and sometimes overwhelmed by. And we take a look at these things from a higher perspective. We take a step back and center ourselves in an understanding that these stories that we are telling about ourselves are creations, and that these creations are ways in which we find ways to have experiences that broaden and expand us ultimately and reconnect us with the truth of who and what we are, which is namely divine mind. That's the term I like to use. I know other people might not like that term, so you can think of it as a connectedness that is at the highest level of the operation of the universe, if you will. That we're all connected on this amazing level, and we are creating these experiences that we're having. And it's kind of like an illusion, and it's kind of like a virtual reality experience, if you will. But these experiences that we're creating, these thoughts that we're having, these conversations we're having, and the stories that they lead to aren't the truth of us. They aren't real. Although they seem and feel very real, and they have to, in order for us to be involved in the game, if you will. And I hate to make light of it in that way. It doesn't feel like a game, and it's not a game in the sense of frivolity. It's an understanding, again, that like when you are playing a game, you may really be into the game, whatever it is, whether it's a sports game or whether it is chess or checkers or a board game or even a role-playing kind of game. You might be really into that game and enjoying the experience of being in that game. But there's a part of you that remembers that this isn't the truth of who you are, that you aren't really what you're playing in this game, but you're just into it. That's kind of the best analogy I can give. Maybe also a really good movie that you get so involved in, total involvement in it, that you forget about everything else that's going on in your life. All of that leaves you, and you become part of this movie. Or same thing with a book. So that's what these experiences are. Because they can feel overwhelming, and they can cause stress reactions in the body. And so in order to healthfully deal with that, so we don't all get high blood pressure and diabetes and have strokes and what have you, in order to deal healthfully with that, taking a step back and looking at things from this perspective, I think is a very essential tool. And I do believe it is a wellness issue. It's not just a nice airy-fairy concept or some new age mumbo-jumbo. It's actually something that can help you physically stay well. Because these things that we are exposed to, these news stories and what have you that push our buttons in a way, they do affect us. As we've been talking about for the past, the past month or so on this show, we've been talking about how the world around us, the events around us, the stressors cause the body to go into the fight or flight response, and that increases inflammation and the body's ability to heal itself. And so we've been talking about how to counter that with the relaxation response. And you do that with several different kinds of tools, meditation being part of it. But taking that step back and looking at things from a different way, that's also part of it. And it's a challenge. I'm continually facing it right now as I speak with you. My mind is racing with challenges that I have to meet. But I'm focused on doing this program right now, knowing that it will be helpful to me as I move on and deal with what I have to deal with in my life. And hopefully it has a similar help for anybody who might be listening. That's my hope. Anyway, today's subject, besides the continuation of what we've been talking about, relaxation response and countering the stress response that we might be feeling, is balance of power. Now, balance of power, of course, can be a wellness issue. Having a balance in your life, feeling balanced in your life between things that you do for work and things that you do for play and pleasure, and things that you do for yourself and things that you do for others, things you do that help you to express yourself creatively. All of these things need to balance for our lives to work well. So that's one meaning of balance of power. When one aspect takes too much and causes an imbalance of power, then we have trouble. But I wanted to talk about balance of power because this is an issue that we're hearing an awful lot about now in the media, because of these, and it seems like there's new allegations and new skeletons falling out of the closet every day regarding men in positions of power. Now, whether that be in the media and entertainment, which we're hearing a lot about. Harvey Weinstein, the high-powered producer, is, of course, that's the story that kind of kicked all of this off. But in the wake of that, lots of people coming forward to talk about their experiences of having been, or what they felt was, dealt with in an inappropriately sexual manner. And who's the latest? Well, of course, then Kevin Spacey, but there's been all kinds of other people that have stepped forward. We have known for a long time about Mr. Bill Cosby and his issues. So there's a couple of aspects to this, and George H.W. Bush, our former president, also has had allegations, aimed at him regarding his behavior. Apparently, he was known to inappropriately touch women, thinking, and in his mind, I guess he thought he was being friendly. I'm not sure. But balance of power issues are really the dynamic that's going on here. And it's going on interestingly enough, on both sides of the coin. So you have people who have a powerful position and are used to just being able to, or get used to being able to just to doing whatever they want to do. There's that aspect of it. There's also the aspect of, is to see people that have powerful positions might not feel very powerful in themselves, because they understand that in the outer world they have the trappings of power, but inside they feel pretty powerless. So that can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. One way is, quite honestly, they just may not feel like, or they may not understand how powerful their actions are. The things that they say, maybe in an offhanded manner, or a joke that they tell, or a physical gesture. They may not truly understand how that affects another person who is not in the position of power, but sees them as a very powerful person who may or may not have undue influence in their life and cause them problems. So that's one way that it sometimes manifests in people who have power. Now, for years I lived in Los Angeles and have had experiences within the entertainment industry, and I know people in the entertainment industry. There are always sort of open secrets like this. And that's an issue that's very interesting, and there's been research done and a lot of talk about, why that happens, why people know about these things or suspect them, but don't come forward about them. So that's something else to talk about. But what I will say is that it's hard for the average person. I mean, even I myself, knowing and having interacted with some people who have a degree of fame, if you will, it's hard for every average person to understand how that affects a human being, where you're constantly being showered with praise, and you're constantly being anything for you, or it seems that way anyway. To live that way and have that be in that bubble can certainly make you lose perspective on what you're doing and how it's affecting other people and what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. So you have people like, with fine reputations, like Dustin Hoffman, who are doing these things that they may honestly see as harmless, but others don't perceive it that way, because they are looking at that person as someone that they trust and respect and admire, and also are afraid of. They're also someone who can take things away from them that they don't want taken away. So that's something to understand, or to at least try to understand. And this is no excuse for them, or